Hoodie guy coming back here with another one. Well, you can see that there's a few green bubbles, but for the most part, we're in red. Today, we're going to be talking about 2025. Was it a bear market? Talked about it before. Before we dive into that, you can see that unemployment rose to 4.6%, highest since September of 2021. White House advisor Kevin Hassett, who used to be the front runner for the Fed chair, said the U.S. is not falling behind China. The higher interest or the unemployment rates being that high doesn't seem to affect the odds much here on, I guess, maybe a little bit. If you go the last day, it's still pretty much even on a rate cut. And you can see the rate cut's not some magic thing that just instantly makes the price go up. So you can see this is Bitcoin's yearly returns. Obviously, it's going to have big returns in the early years when it had such a small market cap. But you can see that it's basically 3 years, red year, 3 green years, red year, and we're at 2 green years. And then now this year, we're looking at down 7%. There's still a couple weeks left, but my guess is that you get some people that are maybe, for tax reasons selling. Maybe they have something that's at a loss. They just sell it so they can pay less capital gains. So there could be some sell pressure at the end of the December. And then you also there might be some lower liquidity because in the United States, the biggest capital market, you have Christmas, December 25th, and then New Year's Eve. So there's a lot of time that people are on vacation or whatever. So could be lower liquidity, some selling off, but I don't know. But when you look this year, this is supposed to be Bitcoin did hit the 126,000, but is it a snapshot of the year? It's down 7%. Gold is up 63% this year. Silver's up 112%. And then if you just went into just the Vanguard VOO ETF, the S&P 500 ETF, you'd be up 16%. You can see, it had a rough time at the tariffs and stuff. So there's been a lot of curveballs this year. And I know a lot of people are, kind of, I see a lot of negative negative comments, and for the most part, Kaspa is just doing what other altcoins are doing. All altcoins are getting hammered. You look at ETH. ETH has got these ETFs. It's got, Tom Lee, the Fundstrat guy that has got the company that's the largest holder of Ethereum. So you got ETFs getting involved, with Ethereum. It's the second one, all that branding, and it barely touched new all-time highs in this year. And so if ETH is struggling, then most other altcoins outside of a few things like, some of like the privacy coins like XMR, Dash, Zcash, those ones that had their moment. So, in some ways you can make an argument that 2025 was a bear market. There was the tariffs and stuff threw a lot of curveballs, but you still have gold, silver, the overall index funds still doing better than Bitcoin. Now people say that, there's paper Bitcoin and stuff like that. Alts never, as a sector never got going. ETH barely dipped its head up to all-time highs just for a split second. So for me, it's about market dominance. Kaspa did rise back up into the 40s, slip back down to the 50s, and market dominance is all that really matters more than price. Because if it's just following the market, that's what the market's doing. If we're in a bear market, we're in a bear market, and it won't really start getting exciting until ETH goes back up over 5,000 and stays there. Until then, we're probably not gonna have a big altcoin season. That's just my opinion there. And so what do you do with that information? We don't know where we're going. It feels like there's a lot of reasons, but now that Kevin Warsh has taken the lead, he doesn't seem to be quite as bullish as for crypto as Kevin Hassett. Then The Clarity Act was supposed to get passed in December. That's pretty much out the window now. Maybe the first quarter of next year, the Clarity Act. So that was supposed to be something that could have been a bullish catalyst. This year, that's not going to happen. I don't know. I think that Congress might be done for the year. If not, they're just like another day or two left, and it doesn't look like that's going to get passed. And so, there's arguments to be made for 126 being the top, but there's also some reasons to think that there could be some bullish things. Now, we also have the Bank of Japan raising interest rates on the 19th, and Bitcoin pretty much goes down 25% after that. So we could be heading lower here. And so we'll know in 2027 what happens in 2026. But 2025, there was no altcoin season, and Bitcoin did hit the all-time high. But as the year is closing down, it's probably going to close in the red for a year. Which, the thing is it's not like there's 500 years of data on Bitcoin. And in the early times, there was such low liquidity and it had such a low market cap. Just like altcoin season really hasn't been around long enough to really establish super long patterns, but you can see that the 3 green years, 1 red year, it's still possible Bitcoin goes up. I mean, everyone's talking about the Japanese yen carry trade before it's crashing, so maybe that's getting priced in. I don't know. Maybe it goes down another 20%. But I don't know. It could go back up too. It's really hard to know the short-term price action. But part of me, it's the narrative that this time's different, and we're that there's that 2026 is going to be good is an easy narrative to buy in because it makes you feel better than if 2026 is going to be a more painful year. But there is going to be a new Fed chair that looks like the Federal Reserve is going to have to pump some money. I know I saw one video where there's going to have a lot of 9 trillion of US debts coming due. They're going to have to refinance that it seems like the Fed's going to have to inject liquidity. They started buying US Treasuries, 40 billion a month, which would be $500 billion a year if they keep that up. And we just don't know. I mean, there's just a lot of wild cards right here. We know that Trump and his family is heavily involved in crypto. Hopefully he puts a Fed chair that's kind of aligned with that. That's the best case scenario. If they get some crypto regulation and kind of the trade war stuff settles down, that's kind of the best case scenario. And then that's kind of about everything there, I guess. I mean, you don't truly know how it's going to shake out, but there's a big case that 2025 was kind of a bear market, and maybe some of the, it did pump up to 126 for Bitcoin, but the altcoins never got going. ETH, you could say, yeah, it hit an all-time high, but barely. I mean, if ETH really did something good, it should have been like $7,000-8,000. Just barely, I think, hit 5,000, maybe a little bit over. And so, yeah, well, future's unknown, but I think there's some reasons why we could have a good 2026. But when you look at the year of 2025, it feels more like a bear market than a bull market. So, the few minutes that alts kind of almost started going was pretty short, and Bitcoin, 124 just nudged to 125, 126. That's it. So let me know what you think in the comments. And as far as Kaspa, it's basically doing what the market's doing. So who knows? Maybe those things will turn around green, but it's more about the long term of what's going on long term versus just one day. So that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.